And Rabbi will take us out.
I'm the Rabbi-in-Residence at Christ Church Cathedral. Let that wash over you for a while. I also have run medical missions to Guatemala for the last decade. Every single year taking a group of physicians, nurses, and pre-med and nursing students from the greater Cincinnati area. So I can offer a prayer from a lot of different vantage points. But I want to close with a prayer that's very unorthodox and also very personal. In September 1939, that's 80 years ago, almost to the day, the Nazis invaded my father's small little town in southeastern Poland. He knew, and he was a teenager, that his life would forever be changed by the events of September 1st, 1939. And about 5 weeks later, he and his two sisters reluctantly left their little home, and he said goodbye to his parents for the last time. He knew he would never see them again. And his father, my grandfather, kissed him 3 times on the back of his hand. When I kiss my daughters goodbye when they're returning home to where they live, I always kiss them 3 times on the back of their head. Because a parent knows what's best for their children, but never knows what they will encounter in their journey. And my grandfather said to my father, "Promise me one thing. At the end of each day, you will recite whatever prayers you remember from the liturgy, and one more prayer. And that prayer is the name and address of an aunt in New York City, Mrs. Rose Edelman, 205 Powell Street, Brooklyn, New York. And every single day for the next 6 years as he went through the lands of the Holocaust, he ended every single day with the same prayer. Mrs. Rose Edelman, 205 Powell Street, Brooklyn, New York." And after the war, he crisscrossed Europe and wound up in a refugee camp and a detention center in Hofgeismar, Germany. And one day he was standing in line to use an outdoor latrine, and he saw this cute girl in front of him. He started up with her. He asked her name, and then he said to her, "Are you alone?" We know he meant, "Do you have a boyfriend?" She thought he meant, "Did you survive with anybody else in this world during your journey through the Holocaust?" And she answered, "No, I'm alone." They went to see a movie that night. The rest, so to speak, is history. And on April 17th, 1948, they married in that camp. And my father and mother made application to come to see, finally, Mrs. Rose Edelman, 205 Powell Street, Brooklyn, New York. And the doors of this country were closed. Orphans could not come into America. My mother, being the last survivor of a ghetto, and in the last 3 days of her life, she witnessed 17,500 Jews, men, women, and children being slaughtered in pits. And America closed its doors to her and to my father. And of course, then by implication, eventually to me. But I came here to start my life here in Cincinnati and to raise 4 daughters here. But I will tell you that every one of those children, every one of those migrants out of the communities that I know well in Guatemala, Honduras, and throughout Central America, They too are closing every single night of their life in fear and in darkness with the hope of Signora Rosa Edelman, Docente Cinque, Powell, Brooklyn, New York. And so join me in a prayer that protected my father. It didn't work out the way he wanted it, but as a driven leaf, he finally found refuge in Canada. So join me together. Mrs. Rose Edelman, 205 Powell Street, Brooklyn, New York. May God protect each of you in your journeys, grant you success, grant you love over hate, and above all, grant you the courage to let your heart shape the direction of every hour of your day. Amen.
So let's carry on and keep up the fight and close the camp and keep the chants going to hasta la victoria! Close the camps! 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 Close the camps!